I think this is fake.
You can't say that.
I can say that.
Wrestling's not fake!
It's still real to me, damn it!
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary.
You are listening to Marks on Commentary. I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
And this is a somber Marks on Commentary for two very important reasons, if you don't mind my leading in with this.
Mm-hmm.
The first and most important reason why this is probably going to be a little morose, if you will, a little bit of a sad show, is because while I was waiting for Jason to prep the show, I was watching the deleted scenes from Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, I just watched that earlier today.
That shit is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I'm actually, normally when I see deleted scenes in a film, I kind of think, that actually might have made the film a little better.
Yeah.
This is, the only time where I was like, oh, fuck those scenes.
Because I kept waiting for, a funny joke or something to pop up, and I'm like, I can do without.
Well, you know what was great about Mrs. Doubtfire was that it wasn't Dead Poet Society.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like when I'm watching these scenes, I'm waiting to find out the kid killed himself. But on a more wrestling related note, I suppose this is a wrestling show, I think. Daniel Bryan's retirement. Now, be a man, Jason. Be a fucking man. Own up to it. How did you react to his farewell speech?
We were chatting about it. Like, are you going to shed tears? And I had to be in that moment. And it's like, I'll be fine. And then just fucking, I cried. Like, it was sad to see this guy who just, all he wants to do is perform. Like, he would have loved to gone out there one more time to just give it hell. But it's just, he knows it's not in his best interest. But it was so sad.
I think I can categorically say that this has been the worst 3 years to be a pro wrestling fan.
2 years, I'll say, because there was the height of Punk, and then even Bryan kind of took the flag until, I would say, up until WrestleMania 30.
Well, no, I don't mean in regard to just saying Punk storming out, Ultimate Warrior passes away, Roddy Piper passes away,
yeah,
Bryan retires, Bret Hart has cancer,
not to mention every champion from last year's WrestleMania is on the injured list.
I'm awaiting, I think we should do an E-style, true Hollywood story version of the curse of the World Heavyweight Championship. The thing that started to really bug me, and I think I was telling you and Sean this, probably 2.5 hours into Raw, when they kept doing the vignettes of the thank you to Daniel Bryan, they were showing some of the clips of his career. I mean, the guy had been wrestling for, God, what was it, almost 15 years. But in the WWE, he really only had, if you think about it, 4 good years.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you don't think of it 4 years feels like a lifetime now. Going back and remembering, I mean, you were actually there, but watching the Royal Rumble in Boston when Booker T and I'll just call him Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Kevin Nash were the surprise entrants, and just how cool that Rumble was. And it was the only time they've ever done a 40-man Rumble. Realizing that, holy crap, that was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
3, 4 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
It feels like a decade ago to me.
Yeah. It's so
to realize that his career in WWE specifically, not his overall wrestling career, but just WWE specifically, was so short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still impressive. I mean, he was a tag team champion, Intercontinental, United States, World Heavyweight Champion, and then
every WrestleMania he was involved with a different championship in some form.
It's just really... That was what was heartbreaking to me, was that in such a short time he accomplished so much, but really never really got to hit his stride as a performer or even as a champion, because the past 2 Manias he's had to relinquish the title due to the injury.
The second he found and got that validation, you thought, oh, okay, he's going to get this long title reign. And that was it. The height that he saw was WrestleMania, and after that, there's few highlights, and it's just heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, I do have to ask you this because and I always on this show very frequently, especially with Daniel Bryan, because he's from Seattle, always go back and make references to music because, I mean, I know you like music, but I'd say out of the two, I'm probably more of the music fan.
Yeah.
But I've always believed that if you're in a band or you're an artist, really the best ones get a good 4-year run in them. Like they have 4 albums in them, before they start to get kind of stale or you kind of get sick of them and they're overexposed or whatever. Is it kind of more beneficial to his legacy that he did have such a short run as opposed to being like a John Cena who's been doing it for a decade or more and everybody's just kind of sick of him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like, what was it like? You go to Nirvana or like, I don't know, Elvis, I guess, died early, but it's like all these celebrities that hit big passed away, and then you don't have any more of that content to consume. And yeah, that definitely is going to play into why he goes down as one of the best of all time, just because you're constantly yearning for that next thing, and there won't be that.
And I think that is arguable with a lot of people, though. And I mean, I'm not saying that there won't be debate over that because, like the Nirvana thing, I remember years ago on a discussion board, it was actually a Nirvana discussion board. Nirvana fans were arguing about the merit of legacy. Well, like, yeah, he killed himself, and yeah, they had these great albums, but does time dictate a good legacy? I mean, sure, like they could have gone on and released more albums, but Pink Floyd was the person's argument, was arguably put out just as many good albums, but they had so many more albums to put out. I mean, I'm not saying that because Bryan only wrestled for 4 years that like, wow, he had such a great legacy. But if you're gonna be forced into retirement the way he was, I mean, he kept using the word grateful. He was so grateful. For what it's worth, if your career is only in the majors, in WWE specifically, is only going to last a span of 4 years, he really did have a pretty impeccable run.
Oh, sure. Shit, nobody is going to come close to that in the 4 year. Like, they talk about, what was it, Sheamus and Del Rio having these first great years. Fuck that. Like, I'll take Bryan's 4 years to fucking Del Rio's first year.
I mean, it's just because the way I look at it, like, especially, again, in those clips, it was cool. I mean, obviously, and a lot of people can shit on this, but I'm still such a huge fan of the Daniel Bryan Kane tag team. It was really stupid, but it worked. Yeah. There was just something about that chemistry that really, really worked. Yeah. And I love the fact that, and it's funny because I would love to see like a, sort of breaking kayfabe kind of interview with Bryan where he really does start to get more articulate about his relationship with Kane, because it's a farewell address. Obviously, the family is going to be brought up. His wife's going to be brought up. William Regal, I thought that was super classy. Mm-hmm. But I did think it was really cool that he made a point of bringing Kane up. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me at least, maybe I'm reading into it, but to me it seems like he has to have a very close relationship with a guy like that to be in his speech. I think he was like one of the first or second people to be mentioned. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. And he also, broke kayfabe, so to speak, and basically explained that, like, yeah, Kane looks like a monster. And this is public knowledge at this point. I think a lot of people know that Kane's actually a super intelligent dude.
Oh, yeah.
I keep calling him Kane. His name's Glenn. But the fact that he even acknowledged that, like, one of the smartest people he's ever met was this performer named Kane. Like, this guy was just, he looks like a monster, but he's, like, one of the smartest guys you'd ever meet. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was cool because it's like he could have name dropped all night and he just kept it very simple. The two specific wrestling names he dropped were William Regal and Kane. And I thought that was cool to Kane's credit, because even with Kane's legacy at the end of the day, I don't think even Kane's career can really match that of Bryan's short career, just in terms of Kane had his peaks and valleys, so to speak, in the business. But to acknowledge that, like, as somebody who's the ebbs and flows of the industry, still stands out to Bryan at a farewell address as being one of, like, the smartest, coolest guys. To just acknowledge that, I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and you have to wonder if, like, Kane was one of the guys that kind of mentored Bryan back in the day, because Bryan hit a big stride right after that too. So
no, I absolutely agree with you. I was it smart of him not to acknowledge Punk though?
I was thinking that too, but he also didn't mention people like Samoa Joe and any of the numerous other like Japanese performers and people of Ring of Honor, and so I didn't take too personally to it.
No, I mean, I didn't either. I was also kind of curious too, because I know Shawn Michaels, for example, during his farewell, I feel like even though it's their farewell address and it's their time to kind of, just discuss their career and their pupils and everything else, that there's even like guidelines for what they are and are not allowed to address.
Yeah.
And I did kind of wonder if maybe CM Punk was kind of on the do not address this list.
Sure. But jump off topic for another week. Another star had mentioned Punk earlier this week. I sent you the tweet earlier, and
Oh, yes.
Enough.
Yep.
I kind of thought it was funny.
I mean, I think I was one of the first people to say that at this point, he might as well just say screw it and go back to wrestling if he still can.
Yeah.
Because you have to figure, too, that there are already so many. He's already acquired so many antagonists to his UFC career that this will only. If Punk doesn't step into the octagon and like Ronda Rousey the shit out of his first opponent, he's already lost his credibility. And I just feel like there's a part of me just reading his tweets and his retorts to people that he even knows that something about his UFC career almost kind of seems hysterical to everybody else, just because. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see the guy fail. At the end of the day, I am still a fan, despite. While I don't necessarily agree with how he went out, I'm not Punk. I didn't work for World Wrestling Entertainment, so one way or another, I can't pontificate and say like, well, he's in the wrong, and how dare he? Like, every one of us has worked at a job where we felt unappreciated, and to the point where we just want to flip our boss the middle finger and be like, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on that level, it's a job. It's no different than a job I go to, you go to, Sean goes to, what have you, or the listeners go to. However, I don't really like the fact. To me, he's become like the Billy Bob Thornton of like a transitional performer, where now people, obviously he's most well known as CM Punk, the former WWE performer.
Sure.
So to basically get in these like fights with journalists. Because understand, too, that like there's nothing to talk about in terms of a UFC career, because until he has his first fight, there's nothing to talk about. In order to generate a buzz for his first bout, he needs to do the press junkets. I mean, that's true of anything. If you have something you're trying to promote, you need to meet with these journalists. You need to, basically put your face out there. All these journalists who probably know absolutely nothing about pro wrestling. The only questions they really have, or the only research, the stuff that comes up in their research, is the fact that he's a former WWE champion or a former WWE performer. To negate that entirely and to get like frustrated that people want to validate the fact that he was a sports entertainer, it just seems a little myopic. It just seems kind of stupid to me that it's like, dude, like you don't have a UFC career until you have your first fight, your first win, your first loss, whatever. There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
The fact that anyone is, and I mean, I'm not trying to sound like narcissistic or like combative at all, but the fact that anyone wants to talk to you, period, be grateful of that. Like, sure, you write comic books, but at the end of the day, CM Punk is not going to be known for being a writer for Marvel or DC. He's going to be known as either a UFC fighter or a WWE performer.
I mean, yeah, to take that and go the completely other route, it's like, look at The Rock. At the end of the day, what is The Rock known for?
Exactly.
All he's done in Hollywood, everything. You give that guy a label, what's the first thing people are going to say? Oh, that wrestler guy.
Right.
So.
Well, see, that's the thing, too, though, is that I feel like you can make the transition into other facets of entertainment or other career areas without needing to be so smug or just so, there's not even really a word for me to say about it. It's just, you don't have to be so standoffish about your history in wrestling. Like, it's there, it exists. The internet is forever. You know what I mean? Like, if you type CM Punk into a search engine, what's the first thing that's going to come up? His WWE career highlights.
Exactly.
Now, I do want to go back to Daniel Bryan because I did notice when I was watching the WWE Network in the overtime of his farewell
Mm-hmm.
that it looked like there was some sort of altercation between Vince and someone else. And like it was very quick.
Yep.
But I remember thinking like, oh, that might come up on WrestleZone tomorrow or No DQ. Like something clearly happened.
I didn't
What are your
see punches thrown, so and I didn't see, immediately. My mind is like, well, nobody else really sold it or reacted to it, so I was like, oh, must have been just joshing around or whatever. So
That's kind of how I took it. I said something clearly happened, but it wasn't done maliciously. It was
yeah.
kind of done playfully.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, in like the few microseconds I caught of Vince's face, he looked pissed.
I don't know. I've tried to go back and look at like the clip close up, and I don't know if he's pissed. He kind of has a smirk. I can't tell.
Now, obviously, initially, what was it? It was a 60-day or 90-day suspension that got. It was what was it? A 90-day that got
90
reduced
days.
to 60.
Exactly.
So here's what I don't understand, and a lot of this got brought up is because he's a brand ambassador for numerous charities and everything else. Why are we singling him out? Like, what was it that was done? Was it because it was a lack of professional? In your opinion, like, what is it that happened that would necessitate for like a suspension for him?
I think it was probably two factors. It was the timing of it and the immaturity of it, and needing to make that point to the rest of the locker room. Like, I'm sure if it was any other night, if it was Stone Cold in the ring doing whatever and the same exact thing played out and it looked exactly the same, you'd never hear a fucking thing of it. But,
Well, I was just going to say, because you brought up Stone Cold, because I did actually read this in Jericho's second book, and I remember this, Rock, because I remember like pissing my pants laughing, because you knew it wasn't a work. Like Austin went out there, the microphones were shorting out, and I think it was two microphones he might have thrown, or just the one, but Austin just took the microphone, chucked it, and Vince McMahon got really serious. Like, that's like a $4,000 microphone you just threw. And Jericho mentioned in his book he did a similar thing, and Vince was pissed and said, "Why did you do that?" And he goes, "Well, Austin did it. You're not Austin." I mean, is there a level of nepotism in that company that you think is kind of unfair to the other performers?
I don't know. I think there's a hierarchy of guys. It's like there's your main event players, and then there's everybody else. And
Well, obviously, too, because we haven't done a show in a while, for example, and I think that you're kind of thinking the same thing, or we're going this direction, is The Rock.
mm-hmm.
When he came out and he addressed the three cosplay wrestling fans who were, I didn't know any of this. Like, I really wasn't paying that much attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
So when Rock addressed them, it meant nothing to me because I didn't know, obviously I wasn't in the arena, and they didn't make it too obvious on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't even notice those guys were escorted from their seats. Like, I still even don't understand, like, why would you escort them out? Like, that's kind of, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like even the vibe
I think
of
it was
attending.
changing the atmosphere in the arena. You know what I mean? People bringing up Hogan chants or Macho Warrior, whatever, and it was just, we don't want this in the arena right now. And taking them out caused more of a ruckus, so they're like, just put them back. But
Now,
not
I
on
just think it
hard
was
camera.
funny because Rock's whole promo from the get-go, I was immediately, even with his, we'll call it an altercation or his interaction with Lana and Rusev, I remember just even kind of cringing because I'm like, even for Rock, I'm like, that's kind of okay. Like, where's this going? You know what I mean?
And part of me, I'm like, isn't he married now? Like, would you want, or at least has another kid with some lady as of a couple months ago? So it's like, you're in a relationship. Should you even be talking like that to another woman, even if it is on television, like playfully? You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know.
No, I mean, it just, the whole promo, again, it kind of felt like Rock was kind of asserting his place in the hierarchy, which kind of bugged me because you couldn't see someone like, I mean, again, Jericho is, obviously he's under contract with limited scheduling or whatever. I don't think it's a Legends contract, but regardless, I can't see Jericho getting the same liberties as The Rock.
No.
And that kind of bothers me because it's like, if you let one performer go out there and do that, like, I don't know, it just, to me, it kind of sullies the worth of the other performers.
Sure. But that's nothing new. You got to go back to, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years ago, and you were still seeing that. So that's just their
True,
mentality.
true. I mean, it was just I don't know the whole thing with Titus O'Neil, and then like it's funny because that incident with The Rock or that promo with The Rock came up
Mhm.
just a few weeks ago, and then now compare it to what Titus O'Neil did, and it just kind of seems stupid to me. Like, and again, like people have brought up, well, they don't make the wellness policy, public info anymore. But it's like, dude, you just suspended a guy for basically horseplay, and he got a more severe. Even I think 60 days is a little too severe.
Yeah, because now he's missing out on the big payday of WrestleMania, and like that. Okay, he made a mistake, sure. 30 days I could get, but fuck, like not for
Well,
nothing.
though
You want
we're
this?
even talking. But we're even talking about, are you even talking about Titus O'Neil missing the payday? Like he's even going to be booked at me.
Well, I think even if you're in like the battle royal, like you get like every star that's even on the show gets like a nice little paycheck. As far as from what I've taken from other people, like that's like your big bonus of the year is working WrestleMania. Even if you're in, you know, tag match, you're fourth in line, you're a valet, you get like a nice payday.
Now, do you think they even get that for like the fan access events? Like, because I don't know enough about the financial aspects of
Uh,
WWE's inner workings.
I believe I've heard from other places is like, no, you're just expected to do those things. But I think getting the WrestleMania bonus is almost like because you did that, this you're getting this. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's not written out like, well, you're working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at Access, and you'll be paid each night this much. Like, no, it's you're just expected to show up and do your shit.
Right. So there isn't like an actual stipend, so to
No,
speak,
no,
for
no, but you just get a bonus at the end of the whenever WrestleMania checks come out.
right. And I mean, I don't know if you've read any of Jericho's books, but Jericho does kind of go into detail about how important a WrestleMania paycheck is versus a paycheck from the other months in the year.
Oh, exactly.
Now, speaking of Jericho, now I pretty much kind of felt like on Monday when you, me, and Sean were talking on Facebook, like I'm basically booking WrestleMania as we go. Like I can't see another Styles and Jericho match unless it's in a tag team setting.
No, I think there's bigger plans for each of them.
Really, because I don't know. I just feel like to have them in a match on Raw and then to kind of build this program with them and lead to a match on SmackDown. You always read or watch these YouTube videos where they say, why are they giving away, big pay-per-view matches for free? Like, I can't see like Jericho Styles Part 3 at Mania. Like,
No, no,
and
no. I think that's coming at this coming pay per view. What next Sunday? It hasn't been announced yet, but the way it's looking like it's going to play out that way, and I'm fine with that.
so what are you thinking for them in terms of Mania, though?
I know Ambrose and Jericho were teasing each other like earlier in the year because they had that 6-man tag match against the Wyatts, and it kind of blew up. And then even at the Rumble, Ambrose eliminated Jericho. I wouldn't be shocked to see Ambrose and Jericho for the Intercontinental title. I don't
I
know.
was actually just going to say because Jericho, I mean, again, he was the first undisputed world heavyweight champion, but I think he's kind of synonymous with holding that strap in
Yeah,
particular. As I've joked before, whether it was on Twitter or just with you personally, the Kofi Kingston US title
yeah.
curse, where he was essentially the Ken Shamrock of, you know, his day. He was basically just stuck with one particular title. Like, even like I own WWE 2K, what are we on? 16.
16. Yeah.
And well, you're kind of stuck in that rut too. I'm sorry. For those of you who don't know, my wife got me an Xbox One, and obviously she got me 2K15, which is garbage. That game is so terrible. So terrible. I mean, I know this isn't a video game show, but that game is awful. Like the only redeeming quality that game has, it's the last game with Punk.
Hmm.
But otherwise, like 2K16, like yeah, I mean, it's kind of the measuring stick or like, you know, the litmus test of like where you're at with the product when you basically invest so much time and energy into creating your own wrestlers instead of like having the dream matches with the ones that actually are wrestlers. So to catch anyone up to speed, I've created myself, Jason Sean, my wife, my brother-in-law, both of my brother-in-laws, and several other people we know, like friends of mine in this game. Jason is essentially the Kurt Angle of my create a wrestler universe that I've created. And he did help. You did hold the WWE World Heavyweight Championship for a nice little run. You have been demoted to Kofi Kingston-like status with the Intercontinental title, which you had a grueling. Actually, no, you did have a grueling match with Jabo, who is currently the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. But you had a grueling tables match against my brother-in-law Derek for the Intercontinental title, and it didn't end well for you, Jason. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Shucks.
However, you and Sean, it is looking like once Sean comes back from injury, you will be in contention for the tag team titles again. As the Marks, that's your tag team.
I like it.
I'm also trying to tease this because I've been trying to get Jason and Sean over here because we did the video game, The Marks on Gaming. And I tried explaining to them, like, you don't understand. Like, I have an Xbox One. Like, you can create your own arenas in this game. Like, you can create your own wrestlers. Like, my ultimate goal at the end of the day is to create my own universe within the WWE universe by creating my own arenas and stuff. So that next time Jason and Sean come over, because we're too old and terrified to actually wrestle each other in the backyard. And right now, Massachusetts is like the ice planet Hoth. There's no way we're wrestling in that shit anyway. That we can have all the dream matches we've wanted to have with each other via WWE 2K16. And that'll be a series of new Marks on Gaming videos. Mm-hmm. Which, did we get any feedback on those? How was the feedback?
It's just minimum things from, people, the usual players that talk to us on Twitter.
I mean, I'd be curious as to what games people want to play, because I will say in our defense, we didn't have a lot to work with WWF Warzone. No. And just to break from, the WWE product and go on to like other avenues like gaming, it's ridiculous how much those games have evolved. Like, I just thought it was funny when we were playing it, and I'm more acclimated. I'm more used to the PlayStation version. You were a Nintendo guy. I was a PlayStation guy. Mm-hmm. Say that match lasted about 30 minutes, or like the initial Royal Rumble match was actually 30 minutes. I could not for the life of me figure out how to throw someone out of the ring.
None of us could. The game ended with 0 eliminations by the 3 of us. So
it was a little heartbreaking, because what I don't like about getting older is because immediately it's a nostalgic thing with everything in life. Anything that happened 10 or 20 years ago is obviously better than what's going on now. Mm-hmm. I can categorically say that it's not true for certain games. I mean, now I will admit that when you were at my Halloween party, when we played Nightmare on Elm Street, we had a good run. Like, it was a fun game to play.
Yeah.
Playing wrestling games with you, by the way, you left attitude here.
I did?
Along with your sunglasses.
Yeah.
Not a fun experience to me. Like, I actually, when I got my Xbox One, it's kind of become a new addiction to me, because I'm just like, wow, like, I feel like that old guy that's just like, they've come up with so much. And yes, Jason does wear a Power Rangers themed singlet in the game.
Yep. Thanks.
You said you wanted it to be very true to who you were.
To who my backyard wrestler character was. I don't remember running around in a singlet with the Power Ranger emblem on me, but.
Well, you haven't even seen your entrance. The entrance is very dramatic, but you are wearing like a Ryback style cutoff shirt with both the green and the white Ranger on it. That's your entrance attire.
I like it. It's morphin' time.
I'll have to get some videos to send you so you can put them up on the @MO commentary Twitter page. So you can vote on, and I can make a series of singlets for you, and we can actually go like Zack Ryder with this, and we can actually have our listeners vote on the best Jason Smith singlet.
Yeah, should I be Zeo Ranger? Should it be a Turbo Ranger?
Well, as of now, you're having an identity crisis, because your outfit is inspired very much by the Red Ranger, nice. But you come out with your Green Ranger, White Ranger t-shirt. So,
what's funny is, since we're on this Power Ranger tangent right now, I actually have gone back and found the original Japanese series, and it's all translated to English. It's actually really interesting to watch.
No, I'd actually this goes back to like 93. So 93 I was like 6. And this is like when the Power Rangers boom happened. I remember I was playing with my like really cheap ass Megazord. Like before they actually came out with the one that was badass, like I had like the only things that came off of it were the fucking legs.
Oh, I had that. Yeah.
And you could press a button, the fist would shoot out.
Yep.
And I was talking
which were
to
gone
my
the first fucking week.
right,
So
and
they
I
just
was
had block hands.
so I'm talking to my buddy Mac at the time, and he was older than me, so I think he had to have been like 8 or 9 or something. And he was like, it's inspired by a Japanese show. And mind you, this gives you a very specific idea of the kinds of people I surround myself with. At 9 years old, it's inspired by a Japanese show. Like this was and for years I've always retained that. But like when you're little and people tell you things, you tend to just grow up and be like, oh, he's full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that it was actually like a Japanese show that was Americanized.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, again, wrestling podcast, but we're on the subject. Elizabeth Banks as Rita Repulsa in the new movie.
I dig it. I like her as an actor, so I'm curious to see what this is. I hope it doesn't turn out to be fucking like the Battleship movie.
But you have to understand, though, this is Power Rangers. This is an established franchise. You can't make a motion picture out of a board game unless it's Jumanji or Clue. Those are really the only board game to film adaptations that worked.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, Jumanji was a short story, so really, Clue. I really didn't love the idea of Battleship because how do you make that a movie and there's aliens in it? That's not Battleship. Like when they first discussed that they were making that a movie, I essentially just pictured 2 dudes like myself and J-Bo just sitting and playing Battleship for 2.5 hours. And it ending badly when he's good at everything and I tend to like only be good at like 1 or 2 things. And I beat him effortlessly and he literally throws the table of the board game on the floor and tells me I cheated. You can't cheat in Electronic Battleship. I'm just going to say that. You just can't. It's impossible.
Going on a Clue tangent for a second. The kid Phil I work with, you met him at my wedding, who's a big movie buff and actually directed a movie himself. My name is Jonah. He was telling me when Clue came out, there were alternate endings.
Oh, didn't they put alternate endings in different theaters? So like
Yeah.
every time you went to go see it, you basically saw a different ending.
Exactly. I'm like, that's fucking brilliant.
I thought about that because there was a short time when I was writing scripts. I'm actually you'd be fascinated. I'm actually in a screenwriting class right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was actually thinking of that. I'm like, that would be so badass. Like, just like that's super hype marketing right there. Is you go to see this movie on like a Friday or Saturday opening weekend, and it's like, dude, this is like one of like 12 different endings. You got to find the right movie for that. Though for Clue, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be a fun game to play. Is find like the most random movies that you could say like, oh, let's make 12 alternate endings for this. Like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, if that had 12 different endings, what would each ending be?
Oh man, I wouldn't even know. Where do you?
I mean, just saying, like Back to the Future would probably make the most sense because it involves heavily with time travel.
Yeah.
So you could easily come up with like 12 different scenarios of what actually happens at the end of the first Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. I mean, just throwing that out there. Going off on our tangent because honestly, quite frankly, when Daniel Bryan retired, I was depressed. Like,
yeah, it was sad.
Just went into this like depression of just like I don't, because this was before we started recording. My first question to you was going to be, who's Jason's next guy going to be?
Yeah, I've been thinking of that all week. I'm like, because I basically start over, like, because there was a time where it was like Rob Van Dam was gone. And I was just looking for anybody. And it was like nothing. At one point, like I considered like getting behind the Miz just because I'm like, I'm sick of Cena. I can't even think of myself like going down that road, but it was just like, you remember that time period where it was like Cena. And Miz hit.
What depresses me about that statement is for Jason to become so jaded over Cena, I'll make it a really depressing life scenario. To even remotely entertain the idea of the Miz being your guy, that's like being just so hopeless and depressed about becoming an adult that you consider heroin as a viable option to real life.
But it was just like, wow, the guy's got hype, and maybe there is something here. Maybe I'm missing something. It was just like, it's new. It's not Cena. It's not Randy Orton. It's not Triple H. I gave it an honest thought, but it wasn't the right time. And thankfully, Punk came along, and then Bryan. But now it's like you reset the board. There's not much to work with right now, and there are guys that I like, but I don't know if I'm gonna put myself behind them.
I mean, Finn Balor is a pretty obvious candidate.
Sure.
I mean, AJ Styles, another obvious candidate. I mean, I think there are guys on the roster. It's tough because
Seth Rollins is another guy I'll throw in there that could be my guy. I'm not much of a Dean Ambrose guy. I'm sorry. Like, I know a lot of people like him. I see what people like at it, but it's just like, meh, not for me.
the Dean Ambrose fandom has kind of died down with me a little bit, just because when he came into the company, he started off as kind of like, oh God, this is like the second coming of Brian Pillman. Like, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of, I don't know, it just got it's a little saturated to me. Like, there was just something about him that kind of came across as like, all right, this is like a little too much for me now. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. There's just something about Dean Ambrose. Like, I still love the guy. I thought his match with Kevin Owens at the Rumble was the highlight of the whole fucking pay-per-view, if you want my honest opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I do question the finish on that, because they had done some really intense shit to each other the whole match. Why did it end with simply him throwing Kevin Owens off the top turnbuckle into a table, and that was that? Like, I would have expected something a little, like a bigger spot to end that match. That to me was not a big spot. But again, I guess I'm greedy in the sense that, like, again, if you grew up in the era that Jason and I grew up in, watch the network. Like, I was watching actually the Hardys and the Edge and Christian No Mercy ladder match, which obviously, like, that's the equivalent of saying, like, oh, I like, Nirvana. What's your favorite song? Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like, that to me, when you say, like, what's your favorite, like, ladder match, like, that's like the equivalent of doing the same thing. But it's such a great match. Just technically, not even with spots, but just technically, the shit that they were doing in that match technically was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I like Kevin Owens a lot, but I even thought this past week on Raw, like, I was kind of getting annoyed with him. Like, he's a good bad guy, but he's an awful bad guy when he tries to be a bad guy. Does that make sense? Like, the way he was antagonizing the crowd and, like, it was just like, dude, no. Like, what are you doing?
You know what? I do like Kevin, and I've found the perfect way to equivalent, like, what he is. He's the annoying, fat, heavy kid that's on the football team only because he's fat and heavy, and he says annoying comments in the back of your history class. You know what I mean? If you gave, like, a stupid answer, you'd be like, meh.
I want to name drop so badly right now, but I also know. And I know because I know who Jason's talking about, and I know Jason knows who I'm talking about. So I'm just going to say, so what Jason's essentially alluding to is that Kevin Owens is the Tim Howe of pro wrestlers.
Oh, I'm not even saying that. I would go another Stoneham High alumni.
Are you going Aaron Feinberg?
No, I'm going fill in the blank.
Oh, come on. Now you have to. Because initially, like, Tim wasn't the fat kid, but Tim was the antagonist. No matter what you did, and I had a class with him. Mm-hmm. And I had several classes with him. I had a class when and we've talked about this on Mark's Off commentary, when he went to attack a fellow gym student with a steel chair during the wrestling session. You got a name drop now. You're killing me.
I was hinting with fill in the blank.
Oh,
are you not familiar with this name?
Oh, I am. I am.
The stuttering kid named Phil that we called fill in the blank.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm there now. But I'm sorry, but initially it was Tim. That's all I kept thinking was.
No, because I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't see it, and I liked him. So.
I liked him too, but I mean,
I'm not saying you don't, but.
All right, dude, I'll put it this way. When I went to your friggin' wedding, I was on the bus and he was texting me, and my wife looks over and goes, "Who's texting you?" I go, "Tim." "Oh, I love him. It's so funny." "Fine, take my phone. You'll see how funny he is after this ride." And the best part about Tim was he's such a creep that I'm searching, I'm looking over my shoulder back, and he's nowhere to be found. You know, because you've known him better than I do, that he was like slouched over in his seat, like, yeah.
The Peter Griffin voice and all.
You know he would. No, I agree 100%. That's who Kevin Owens is. All right, well, if we're gonna do this, then to keep it wrestling related, pick 5 superstars right now. Why you like them, why you don't like them, but it has to be specifically for reasons that remind you of high school.
Ugh.
I know this is gonna be kind of painful, but divas are included in this. Divas are totally included in this.
I don't know. I'm trying to think like who lines up. Why do you have people in mind? That
Oh God, yeah, God, yeah. All right, like Bailey, for instance, in NXT.
yeah.
Super fucking cute, but in like the most unconventional way. Like, she's not like, Bella gorgeous, but she's like cute as hell. But she's also kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately, I'm like, she's that quirky chick in high school who I could never bang. And it would always be because I would try to get to know her. And like genuinely, because I wanted to get to know her, but she'd be so flighty that I'd get annoyed.
Are you specifically citing somebody, or are you generalizing to somebody? Or
No, I'm being pretty general here.
Okay,
Like, I'm being pretty.
okay. I was like, do you have somebody in mind like this? Okay.
No, I'm being pretty general because there were a few girls in our grade that were like that, where it was like you would try to engage them in like a serious conversation, and they'd just be too eccentric for their own good, and you just be like, dude, I'm so fucking annoyed with you right now. Why do you have to be remotely good looking? Because you're fucking pissing my penis off in the worst way right now. Or Dean Ambrose. I can give you a best. Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
The fucking kid that was just out of his fucking mind. Out of his fucking mind, to the point where like he was cool to be around. Like, you'd hang out with him at a few parties, or he was funny in certain classes. But then 9 times out of 10, you were like, I just want to fucking punch him in the face right now. Like, he's cool in increments, tiny increments. He's cool, but then he starts to like wear you out, and you're just like, all right, dude. Like, I was so behind you in the beginning because you were different, and now I'm just annoyed by you.
Try to think of somebody. Somebody comes to mind that fits that profile that we went to high school with, or kind of if he showed up. I think he's dead now.
Oh God, should we bleep these out as we go? Because I'll probably answer this question, but
do you know who I'm talking about?
I think I do.
Okay, then we can leave it at that.
Okay, because I was gonna say I think I do. I'm not 100%.
Billy?
Huh?
First name Bill? Billy?
Oh my! And it ain't Jackson. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That's Dean Ambrose. Is that not Dean Ambrose?
Yeah.
Really sweet kid, nice kid, but like half the time you like want to be like, dude, whatever you're on, just stop. You got to cut the dosage down a little bit. You're fucking killing me. All right. So, all right. I like this game though. I do like this game.
All right.
So let's go to some of the. All right, CM Punk of high school. Who is the CM Punk? The one that you were totally like, yeah, fuck yeah, this guy's great. This guy makes coming to school fucking awesome, and then he just like, fuck this. I'm too cool for school. Takes his ball and goes home. And you're just like, what the fuck, dude? I was totally on your team, and you just totally bailed on me.
You might like it. You might fit that category, sir.
That sucks.
I don't know. Like, at a certain point, I think you were done with high school. Like,
yeah, okay. I can't not be flattered that I was considered CM Punk, but yeah, there was definitely a point where I was like, you know what, fuck this shit, I'm out. And everybody looked at me like, dude, oh, like, you made this shit interesting, and now you're gone. Okay. And then I had a very unsuccessful UFC career, clearly. No, I could see that. I could totally see that. Okay. And then, see, I don't know how I would categorize you, because you went through your identity crisis state. Maybe.
I'm not going to be offended if you want to.
No, I'm trying to figure this out, because I'm trying to think of
going to be like, well, you're the Zack Ryder.
No, a part of me wants to say that you were kind of like the Lance Storm
Okay.
of Stoneham High School because, like, immediately I'm like, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. And then, like, I'm like, like, all right, like, he's cool. And then he went through this identity crisis where he tried to be, like, funny or, like, go through, like, the Stone Cold inspire Lance Storm to dancing. And I'm like, no, just stop. Please stop.
I would concur. I'm okay with that.
I think when you were destroying desks in my study hall and I turned to you and I'm like, but he's Lance Storm. What the fuck is he doing?
That's like Lance Storm getting caught with like steroids in his bag, and you're just like, "What? That didn't happen." But
I've always respected you. I've always had my Lance Storm respect for you. But then when you went through that phase, I'm like, this is like watching a train wreck. What is he doing, Jason? You're clearly hanging out with the wrong kids.
Have I told this story?
Oh, the one with you jumping on desks and breaking the fucking.
Yeah.
I don't think you've told it, and if you have, you haven't told it enough.
Right. Start from the beginning. I forget which fucking class it was. Probably like a history or some bullshit. Teacher wasn't in, so we got moved into, was it like a lecture room or something like that? It's essentially like a small theater, no stage, no screen, that was in the very rear of our auditorium that had this like, I don't know, what would you call it? Like plastic wall that would like cut it off from the rest of the room. So
yeah, the thing about this room though was it made no sense because it was set up like a theater, but there was no stage. It was theater seating, and I remember being in there and being like, "What are they?"
You could open the wall and it would reveal itself to the rest of the auditorium, so it was like overflow.
But like that's like it just seemed like the most absurd opera seating.
Yeah.
So it was like, why do you have like a VIP box for Stoneham High School?
But it also was like a lecture hall too, because it had those like flip down, flip up, flop over your lap kind of half desks.
But mind you, at our high school, most of the faculty were alcoholics and malcontents. So there was no actual need for a lecture room for people that we didn't even have a teacher. That no teacher actually sat in the classroom. I don't know if you noticed, but there was an actual desk from a classroom outside the door.
Oh yeah.
And that's where.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There were 2 of these rooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the second one ever got used or not, but and you could.
Oh,
they were individualized even between them, like separated by like a wall.
Oh yeah, but it was funny because you'd have this like auditorium style room full of kids, and the teacher was sitting at like a desk, really
outside,
pissed off.
And the door
outside
would almost be like half closed sometimes. And like your pun on the other function of the room is if you happen to be late, rather than going to your class, you would go into this room for the rest of the 90 minutes or an hour or whatever. How long were
that was your punishment, mind you? Tardiness. You were punished by essentially being in a room where there was no chaperone.
Yep.
There was absolutely no one watching you. So by Stoneham High standards, you were late. You must be punished. We're going to put you in this room.
Don't go to class.
Don't go to class. We're going to stick you in this room with a bunch of other kids who were late intentionally. And I remember being in that room on 3 occasions where people were lighting up and smoking pot and cigarettes because they're just like, doesn't matter. Nobody's watching. Mm-hmm. I remember at one point thinking like, this just seems like it just seems kind of detrimental to the whole learning process. Or they sent you to the cafeteria with like 3 open doors that nobody guarded. Which is like essentially being like, you're being sentenced to a maximum security prison, but the guards aren't watching the doors. So please don't escape.
So anyways, we're sent to this room. It's bookend or beginning and middle. It's, what is it? Like 30 minutes in the classroom, 30 minutes for lunch, and then you come back to this room. Everybody's coming back. Mike Colella is also an accessory, but didn't commit anything to this.
Just so you know, that's probably number 3 or 4 in this. Mike Colella was the Santino of Stoneham High.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I'm not saying that because he's Italian. I mean, he is very Italian. His personality through and through. If Mike Colella got thrown over the top rope and survived, or like rolled out of the ring and came back and there was one guy left in the ring, even I would be chanting for Mike Colella to win the Rumble. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I'm with you. So we get back to the room after lunch. Everybody's walking in, making their way back into the room, settling down in their seats. I'm talking to Mike, and Mike is talking to this other kid who do you even know who it was?
He was in my sped science class,
Okay.
and this kid was a fucking punk. And all right, I'll own the CM Punk thing now because there were many times I got in his face, and I seem to remember actually. Did you do it on purpose, or are you just fucking retarded? Probably came out of my mouth several times. So this kid was like the Ryback.
Dumb as fuck.
The Ryback of Stoneham High, and he was like a freshman. And this is what really bugged me about Jason. We were seniors when this happened.
What? Were we?
Yeah, we were fucking.
I think I remember this happened.
Wait, were we juniors?
I think we were juniors or whatever.
Okay, I know we were definitely juniors.
It happened actually right before Survivor Series where Shawn Michaels won the title in the Elimination Chamber. And I'll tell you why I remember that in a minute.
Oh God. So no, so that was sophomore year. Okay, so we're sophomores. All right.
So don't give me as much shit. Hopefully you think more of me now, Eddie.
I'm unfolding my arms now and I'm sitting up from the Indian style position and I'm listening.
All right. So Mike is the gateway for me to even talk to this kid because I wouldn't have gone out of my way to talk to the kid because I had no relationship prior to this incident. So we're just chit-chatting, everything like that. Everybody's making their way back into the class and we're looking at this fucking, and mind you, it's half broken at this point. We didn't fully break. We didn't pick one out of the litter and be like, that awesome brand new thing. This fucking room was decrepit. It was made in the 50s. It's probably 40 years old. So it's like already half broken off. And we're just fucking looking at it, like nudging it, being like, I don't know why it caught our attention. And randomly, I think I pick it up, fold it down so it's, it is as much of a desk as it can be, half broken. And then I just decide to like step up onto the other sides of the chairs because it's like movie style theater seats, right?
All right, I'm gonna save you some time here. Essentially, what Jason did was Jeff Hardy's move when he would hop over the top rope and do the leg drop on somebody. Jason was very agile. I'll give you that. At this point in time, Jason was very agile. Mm-hmm. He launched himself over the back of the chair and landed like a leg drop on the part of the desk that folded up. And snapped it right in half. I'm hearing the first.
Because there's more to it. I didn't snap it. What had happened is since it was like old and brittle, it kind of almost acted like a whatchamacallit? What the fuck's the thing you jump off at a pool?
Like a diving board.
Yeah, like a diving board. And it just kind of brushed up off my foot. You know what I mean? And came back up to where it was. Almost like a spring, like boing. So at the
the unstoppable force in the immovable object is what we're describing here.
So, in fairness, I didn't break it. I just jumped on the thing and it ricocheted off my foot almost. The other kid that we're talking to, I don't know, should we name him or something?
I don't even have a name. I'm just going to call him Ryback.
Right. Okay. So Ryback is in the room. He sees what I did. He thinks that's a hilarious idea. He takes an even bigger leap. Meanwhile, while he is in air, the teacher, for some reasons, decides to walk into the room and sees him land, break, and fucking, it's all over the floor. It's shattered. Like, if you ever broken up like dry wood, like what'd you call it? Like a pressed wood or whatever, it splinters, goes everywhere. That's what fucking happened to this thing. And it's like, it's almost like a gunshot went off in the room because it goes quiet. She's looking at him. I'm looking at him. Everybody's looking around. And all of a sudden, he just darts out the like secondary door. And it's just a what the fuck happened moment.
I do have a revelation about this day, actually. Okay. It was sophomore year because I went to the freshman semi. I did not go to the sophomore semi. This was a Friday. This was the night of the sophomore semi.
This was a Wednesday.
Was it a Wednesday? All right. So it had to have been before.
Why I know that.
Okay. No.
Wednesday or Friday?
I'm going to go. Actually, no, you're right. Wednesday. But I do remember waking up in the study. So I must have been wearing this for 2 straight days, which makes me look like an asshole. because I had fallen asleep in the study hall. So Jason causes a ruckus. He gets taken out. I fall asleep. I woke up probably like 15 minutes later with braids in my hair. There were two girls in the class with me. I was doodling in a notebook, and they were asking me who I was taking to the semi, and I said, I'm not going. I fell asleep, and they braided my hair. I looked like Axl Rose circa 2002. Like, he had cornrows, but I had braids that could rival his cornrows. But you're right, we were sophomores, so I can give you less shit now.
Yeah. It was a Wednesday, and I know why. So kid runs out. Teacher was like, "Who the fuck was that?" And then we're like, "We don't know." And she didn't see me jump on it, so everybody just kind of sits back in their seats. The teacher goes to the principal's office, and they have some discussion or something like that. And I'm like, "All right, no big deal." 15 minutes later or so, I don't know if it's the principal or vice principal, came back with the kid basically by the fucking ring of his neck, shirt scrunched up. They're looking in the room, and they're looking over the broken desk, and I'm going, oh, fuck. Because
snitches get stitches, all right?
And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to end well. So, perfect. This is me at that time. I try and take the closest or the furthest seat away and sit up front. I think I have a ball cap on. And I slouch down in my chair because I know what he's fucking doing. And I just go to my bag. And I am marked to this day because I pull out my copy of Mick Foley's book and I crease it open into the middle and I look like I'm reading. Because clearly no good kids read, right?
Oh no. You were the heartbreaking thing to me was I met Jason in the 6th grade. Jason was, as I was, Bobo for life, as we'd say. Yep. Bobos for life. What Bobos don't do, because we are milquetoast, we do not break school property. Jason looks like he had a load in his pants that could rival any one of my nieces or nephews when they were young. He had the essential walk of shame out of the room. I remember there was a certain point where I actually felt really, really bad for you. Because I thought, like, oh man, he finally tries to rebel and he gets caught at the first attempt. Jason will never rebel again.
I just remember the kid or the principal questioning, why'd you do this? And he'd be like, I wasn't the only one. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. And him being like, well, that kid did it. And I could feel, I wasn't even looking at the situation. My eyes were forward. It was happening behind me. And I heard, him? Yeah, him. You. And I just keep my eyes straight. Yeah, you. I was like, oh, fuck. And it was at that point where I'm like, I have to turn my head around. And I'm like, me? Could not have been me.
I'm a good Bobo. I'm reading my Mick Foley book.
Clearly. So, whatever. We get rung down to the principal's office. I think we sit there the rest of the day. I think the kid wasn't even officially from Stoneham. And he may have gotten thrown out of school because, like, I don't know if they like faked it, like where his grandmother was living in town and they're like, yeah, I live here. You know what I mean?
No, he did have Ryback did have a very, very short-lived run in the WWE of public school systems. Cause I remember going to science class and being like, I don't have to deal with this asshole anymore.
So I don't know if that incident caused him to be kicked out of school completely. Last time I did check, and this was probably about 6 years ago, Ryback did become a heroin addict. Uh-huh. So Jason was actually doing this for the better of the school system. So here's the thing. Because of my action, it was Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? Hang on. Let me think about how this works.
Here's what you need to do. You need to go into your drawer.
No, I know. I remember.
You need to pull out your green slip and check the date on your green slip.
I have even better story about that. It's a Monday, and I know why. Because Thursday is Thanksgiving. Because it was in November. So this incident happens on Monday. Thursday is Thanksgiving. I get suspended for 2 days. So, in short, I did it perfectly because I essentially got a week off of school.
Which I will constantly say to my niece who's 16, like, she's been given in-house suspension. And I thought we have a wrestling podcast. Okay. She has been given in-house suspension about a dozen times, and every fucking time she gets seated with like her boyfriend's friends or her best friends, and I'm thinking like, that's not in-house suspension. That's essentially like, for someone like me, I used to hang out at this place called The Path, and that's where all the deviant kids used to smoke cigarettes and do other things. That would be like being like, Eddie, you're suspended from school. You're going to spend your time at The Path for a week. That would be like fucking paradise to me. That would be like a Jimmy Buffett concert for a week. That is how kids get treated. Like, their idea of discipline is, well, I'm going to let you hang out with all your friends, or I'm going to let you sit at home and play Nintendo 64 while you think about what you did. So, yeah, that was Jason. And what's funny to me is that if you think about the three hosts of Marks on Commentary now, you have Jason, you have Sean, you have myself. No, I don't think Sean was ever suspended or got detention, but Sean got into some shit. I know he did. There's no way he didn't. Sean was a bad kid. Bad kid. Jason was a bad kid.
What?
All right, for all the crap that people, even at my high school reunion, gave me, never once was I ever given detention or suspended.
Really?
And I give my wife the same shit because my wife dropped out of high school for like a month and came back. She was suspended several times, was given detention several times. People look at my long-haired ass and think like, oh, Charles Manson, this guy must have been trouble. Never suspended, no detention. Thank you.
Interesting.
I am as self-righteous as CM Punk. Jason, I will take that as a compliment. I am CM Punk, and I am better than you.
So, yeah, tailing this off and bookending this with something. When I received my written up notice from Stoneham High School, because they mailed it to me, because I think they wanted to make sure my parents knew that I was suspended, I took it and then I framed it in my bedroom, and it was on my wall for a good 2-3 years until I graduated high school.
That is how you know Jason was a pussy in high school, because this asshole actually claimed, like, treated it like a badge of honor, like, I'm a bad kid now.
I thought it was me.
Unlike the rest of, I do have to say this now, because I was going to say this before the show, and I'll say it now, and I won't give a name. I had a Billy Madison moment tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So Jason didn't go to our 10-year reunion for probably good reason. I got shit tanked, lost my phone, and just hugged a bunch of people I shouldn't have hugged, and got really friendly with people, to the point where my wife and I argued about this. Best example, my wife was mad at me. My marriage versus Jason's marriage. Jason is a very good husband. From the stories I've heard, him and Hillary get in an argument. Jason acquiesces. Yes, honey. Whatever you want, honey. Not saying that says anything about Jason. Good husband. Me. I'm mad at you. I'm frustrated. Why'd you act like this? I sat in her car with my arms folded like a 5-year-old kid for an hour and a half. I staged a sit-in protest in my wife's car. That is how I solve problems, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway.
Well played.
I had this former best friend from high school, and he really dicked me over. He walks in, the first thing I did, what did I do? I went up to him, I gave him a hug, we buried the hatchet. I'm shattered. My wife is like, dude, you're terribly drunk. Like, you're like Rick James drunk. We're going home. This friend proceeds to tell Sean how important that hug meant to him. I was on Facebook earlier today. He is now on the Stoneham police force. I now had my Billy Madison moment. Man, I'm glad I hugged that guy. So, to reiterate, I wasn't a bad...
far catch. I was like, where the fuck is this going?
I am not a bad guy. I am very smart. I am very methodical. I am a cerebral assassin.
Assassin.
I like the way you talk. Just saying, Jason was a bad kid because he had to frame that notice. Whereas if he was really a bad kid, he never would have gotten caught in the first place. So let's chalk it up. We had a Dean Ambrose in our high school.
Yep.
We had a Bailey. We had a CM Punk. We had a Ryback. We need one more. We need a fifth to round it out, Jason.
What would Sean be?
Oh my God, what would Sean be?
I mean, do we just say McFoley and be like done, or because I think he's more than that.
Oh, Sean was definitely more than a Mick Foley. I will say he was certainly way more. He was way more entertaining than Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I've always been stuck with Sean. I can never give him a wrestling persona because whatever I give him, he'll change in a week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I always felt comfortable just calling him Chris Farley. Because with Sean, it was like 1 minute you were like, oh, he's totally this. And then like a month or a year later, you'd be like, what the fuck, Sean? Like, I was totally fine pigeonholing you right there. And then you had to go and change for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God,
It's tough.
You know what, though? All right. Print the T-shirts. I'm going to say this. I am a Sean Springett guy. I am a Sean Springett guy. Sean would have been the Paul Heyman of Stoneham High.
Okay.
I know, and I'm not. There are a lot of negative connotation to Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, honest God, makes shit interesting. He makes it fun. He makes it innovative. He makes it interesting. There's not one time I've hung out with Sean where it wasn't one of those things, especially in high school. And the funny thing is, Sean does not pick favorites. Like, there are people that I still, to this day from high school, can't fucking stand that Sean will associate with. If Sean associates with them, I go, all right, like, I'll come around to it. You know what I mean? Like, when Paul Heyman picked Curtis Axel as the next Paul Heyman guy, I actually gave that motherfucker a chance. That is Sean. Anyone Sean touches, immediately I'm like, I'm a Sean Springer guy. Let me get behind this. Also, I'm such a Sean Springer guy that Sean and I had certain rivalries over the years that were equatable to CM Punk and Paul Heyman. So you know what? Fuck it. Sean was Paul Heyman.
Okay.
Sean was Paul Heyman, and you were just
Lance Storm.
You were Lance Storm. I would go further and call you Kurt Angle.
Okay.
Because when you were squeaky clean, but when you wanted to be a dick, you were a dick. But you were still squeaky clean while you were a dick. So if I was like the Steve Austin in our little rivalry from like 7th grade till now, you would have been the milk truck guy.
It's all right. My Twitter was hacked. Anything I said doesn't matter. It wasn't me.
Jason doesn't have it in him to beer bath you, but he would have it in him to milk bath you.
That sounds horrible. What is a milk bath?
I'm just saying, Jason wouldn't have it in him to drive a Coors truck through the arena, but he would certainly drive a milk truck through the arena. Well, we're gonna make a milk truck. It's the best thing I could find. I'm making a point. You're breaking that desk with your milk truck. I really hope your wife does, in fact, listen to this show.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't even know what it's about.
Good for you.
Does your wife listen to it?
Only when she walks out here in the middle of the night, I was like, who the fuck are you talking to? I still remember the one night when she came out here and she mouthed to me, do a good job tonight. And that summed up my entire role on this show. Was my wife even comes out here for a podcast I don't get paid to do. We do for fun. And my wife is still telling me, Eddie, make sure you do a good job tonight. So yes, once again, I am the CM Punk. That's the equivalent of like Vince being like, please come tonight. Please fulfill your contract and come tonight so I don't have to fire you on your wedding day. That's a wedding gift I wish I'd given you now.
What's that?
I wish I'd given you your walking papers and marks and commentary at your wedding. In a FedEx envelope. Damn it. Good ideas in retrospect.
Should have done that. Fuck.
I still have your wedding sunglasses, I think. I hope I didn't throw them out.
That's cool. Like, I remember a while ago, I was like, oh, wait a minute. We had Eddie's Halloween party, and I was kind of trying to be whatever costume I could pull out of my trunk, and I was like, I got a leather jacket and sunglasses. What's that?
Next time you come over to my house, you're going to come over in nondescript tights while I bring a pillow out. While Jason's doing Jason's thing, I come out and go, boring.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Come on, those were
Yeah,
like
no, I knew. Now I know, but
the golden nuggets of Steve Austin, and like that's what I want to see. That's the next WWE special I want to see: is Steve Austin and Lance Storm.
that'd be awesome.
Lance Storm, Steve Austin made me fun again. Oh my god, 2003 and 2004. You know what? Fuck it. We need to make like a video tribute of WWE 2003, 2004. The most confusing but interesting moments in WWE history. How could you get more interesting than Eugene? Actually, the level of political incorrectness that went into that character, I remember just being so dumbfounded that this was happening. And then, of course, Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon took on Shawn Michaels and God at Backlash. Oh God! And we were talking about this before we wrap up the show because we're getting to that point. But so Sean, all right, Jason and Sean went on this tirade. Sean was just fucking inundating us with all these pictures from him when he was a kid.
Yep.
Jason retorted with some of the worst photos I've ever seen in my life, which will now go down in infamy for my marriage, at least.
Not of me, of you.
Yeah, of me. Yes.
Let me clarify.
My wife, hot as a 7th grader, still hot as a 29-year-old woman. Eddie, awkward then, slightly acceptable now. So Sean had sent pictures of himself and his brother. Mind you, Gary was a Nirvana 9-inch, and Gary was a very messed up goth kid in high school. Used to wear like the see-through, like anything you could picture like Alexis Arquette wearing in Bride of Chucky. That's what Sean's brother wore. And I said to Jason, I said, I must be sick like Vince McMahon because I see that picture now and I go, why didn't we call you guys Columbine when you had your tag team matches?
Too tsunami.
Meanwhile, yeah, too soon. Jason shakes his head, and I remember SMH. That's what Jason posts to me. What Jason won't tell you is he sent me a GIF of Vince McMahon's reaction to 9/11.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
And I go, oh man, this is awful. And Jason goes, typical Jason fashion. Oh, someone just sent it to me.
Somebody did send it to me.
Well, I know he watched and at least did a while he was watching it. Sean, being the better person, the Paul Heyman of the threesome, at least said, my God, that shit's funny.
Yeah. Because he wanted to bring it back. He was like, you know what, Eddie? I kind of find it funny.
Here's the funny. That's the great thing. Paul Heyman. I kind of think it funny. CM Punk. Man, that's so distasteful. Jason. It's not. It wasn't. You're the Snitsky.
It wasn't my fault.
We need to. I bring him back. All right, for Mania. Let's do that. Let's have a 10-year building rival. Let's get Snitsky against Kane at WrestleMania with Lita in his corner. And Mae Young's hand as a special guest referee.
They should do another gimmick battle royal. It has almost been 15 years since the last.
Well, if you do a gimmick battle royal, and we'll end the show on this, find the gimmick. What's the gimmick?
What do you mean?
Because all right, so WrestleMania 17 was the gimmick battle royal, and it was, I remember Doink was in it.
Yeah.
Was IRS in it? There was a shit ton of people in it that I don't remember. I'd have to go back and watch it, but yeah, I was kind of fascinated. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool.
It was like Tugboat. It was like, I don't think Gilbert was supposed to be in it, but he wasn't. What was it? It was just like all like the typical 1994 jobber guys that they made. But I'm trying to think.
I've said this to you, and I mean this with every fiber of my being. A gimmick elimination tag match between the Job Squad and the Social Outcasts.
I don't even think there's anybody that's around that would be on WWE's good list to be on it. Maybe Blue Meanie. I think Al Snow is in TNA. Bob Holly. I don't think that ended well.
I don't think anything when you bring up Bob Holly, I don't think you could ever say ended well in the same sentence with Bob Holly.
And I don't know what's up with Too Cold Scorpio, but maybe Gilbert.
I just remember the whole Tommy Boy incident, not the movie, but like the actual record label of Paul Heyman having to go on like TV and clarify, like, we didn't get royalties from them. It's all I remember from that guy. I think we should have a Love Children of Jerry Lawler battle royal. Grandmaster Sexay against anyone that we could imagine was in a gimmick. You know, we should have an illegitimate son battle royal. You already know Hornswoggle and Grandmaster Sexay are in it.
Okay.
Maybe we should just have an illegitimate son match between Grandmaster Sexay and Hornswoggle. You know what? Fuck it. Let's call it Jobber Mania. Let's just have 8 matches on the card that are all jobber matches. Jobbers jobbing to jobbers.
That might be how it plays out.
Where is my paycheck? Where are my royalties? I just completely booked WrestleMania. It's Jobber Mania.
Do you want to take an honest approach to trying to book WrestleMania?
All right, we'll start with you,
all right,
Mr. Lance Storm.
Well, from the top, like, I'm going by what is probably gonna happen. Not Daniel Bryan comes back and he wins the world title. No, like, let's go with realities. Let's go with pieces that we have, or for some reason we think we're gonna have.
Okay, well, first off, how many matches on the card?
That's hard to say. What is it? Round out about 8?
Traditionally, and I remember like narrowing this down to a science when I was in 7th grade. Traditionally, it's 8 matches per show.
Okay. Does that include Battle Royal and bullshit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, because it's still technically a match. It's on the card.
Yeah, but they have like the pre-show shit.
You know what, though? I think that's just for them to just kind of get away with being like, we don't really think this is going to sell our event, so we don't want to waste time, so we'll make it 8 matches, regardless of pre-show or whatever.
From the top, I think, obviously it's going to be Triple H and Roman Reigns, right? I don't see it being a triple threat or anything like that. Do you see any other avenues besides for that main event?
All right, so if we're going to do this simultaneously, so I'll agree with your Roman Reigns, Triple H. Now, if it's a main event and Triple H is not going to sell a main event as champion, he's just not. I'm sorry, this is not. I'm going into punk mode. This is not 1994. This is not 2004. In order for a Triple H Roman Reigns match to work and to sell drama, The Rock either has to be in the corner of Roman Reigns or he has to act as the impartial guest referee.
I think it's more likely that he's in the corner.
Then if that is the case, you have to have Michaels in Triple H's corner,
okay,
and The Rock in Roman Reigns' corner.
Okay. Better.
Who's a more believable guest referee? Stephanie.
I don't know.
If we take the guest referee contention out completely, then unless Ronda Rousey's schedule permits, Ronda Rousey guest referee, because that's the star power they would need. So Ronda Rousey guest referee, and Triple H with Shawn Michaels in his corner, Roman Reigns with The Rock in his corner. That's your main event.
I like it. I would edit. Maybe the referee is Austin.
Okay, because he's still unsure. He's still kind of on the fence as to where do I fit into this Texas WrestleMania. So I'll give you that.
I think that main event needs a lot of help, and the combination of Rock, Austin, and Michaels is like sprinkling on a shit donut.
Well, here's the thing too, is there are rumors, unfounded, but there are rumors that they are trying to get Hogan back into the company. This would be the equivalent of trying to get Bill Cosby on Family Feud. But it is what it is. So either there's got to be regardless, in order to sell this match, you need star power. Triple H and Roman Reigns, okay, it's a marquee, but it's predictable. That's the biggest problem with this match. It's predictable. In order to break from predictability, we know Rock's going to be there. He cannot show up in a hosting capacity because we've already been there and done that. Mm-hmm. And we know that was a catalyst for him and Cena. That was the whole reason Rock came back in the first place, correct?
Yeah. In
order for this to work, Rock has to come back and support family. Because we already know that he, it's common knowledge now that the Usos come out and he says their family, whatever. Rock and Roman Reigns corner, Shawn Michaels and Triple H's corner with a guest referee. Whether it's Vince might make the most sense. But regardless, star power, Ronda Rousey. That's my main event. So the match leading to the main event obviously has to be Taker.
Okay.
Who do we put against Taker?
I hope against hope that it's not Braun Strowman. I hope they're smart enough to see that that's a bad idea.
The only problem we have here is I do have 2 understudies for Braun Strowman.
Okay.
It's either going to be Sheamus or it's going to be Brock Lesnar part fucking 10.
No, I don't think that. I think Brock's already set up. I think Brock and Wyatt is another lower card match.
All right, so we'll go 3 steps down. So Brock and Bray, what you're suggesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we go back to Taker. If it's not Braun Strowman, who is it?
It's tough. I would have thought that Kevin Owens made the most sense, but from all indications, he's tried to get that going, and management doesn't want to go that route. I think of the guys you have on that roster, it would have made the most sense. He's beaten Cena. He's been on that level. He can go. If you want him to be the star of the future or the heel of the future, he would be the guy. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
I really do see this going like 3 different ways. Either Cena does have a quick recovery and he comes back and he lives up to what we're all expecting, which is Cena and Taker. However, it's very heavily rumored that Taker is not retiring after this Mania.
Yeah.
If he's not going to retire, then he needs a big marquee match for the homecoming Undertaker Texas WrestleMania. Who do you book there? It's not that I want to book this. It's just that this is where I could see it going. If it's not Strowman, if it's not Cena, then it's probably Sheamus.
It makes sense. He's a recent champion now. I don't want to see it. I hope they're smart enough to realize like it's
the problem is Vince has always pushed Sheamus for Mania.
Yeah.
That's why every time Daniel Bryan was like, Vince, who am I facing at Mania? We're gonna face Sheamus. Again, like I just for some reason, one way or another, I see it being Sheamus.
Yeah.
If they want to get cool, if they want to get interesting with it, bad news Barrett.
What's sad is like all those guys in the what the fuck do you call it? What's the name of that group? The fucking foreigner guys. I'm blanking.
I want to call them the Nation of Domination.
League of Nations, that's what it is.
League of Nations, yeah.
It's like all those were WWE priority projects at one point. And they're all worth shit. It's scorched earth with all 4 of them. Where it's like,
oh yeah.
It's like any one of these guys, if they had taken the time and made them, would be a perfect opponent. It's just like, I don't want to see it. So, I don't know.
All right, well, we have 1 of 8. So we can go down to the bottom of the ladder, which is I see Ryback, Big Show, and Kane against the 3 Wyatts.
I feel like that's happening at this upcoming pay-per-view. I don't think we're going to wait. I think the point of them having this match now is to build the Wyatts up as giant killers, and that's how you get to Brock. The Wyatt family kills giants, and they're going to go kill the biggest giant of them all at WrestleMania.
Okay, I could see that. However, what was the thing? Because there was a name thrown in for the Andre the Giant Battle Royal as a potential winner, and I'm trying to remember who the fuck it was now.
I have 2.
Who were the 2?
I have 2.
Oh, you have 2. What were the 2?
Either Kalisto or Mark Henry in his final WrestleMania ever, because it's strongly rumored that Henry's done after this year. I will say this, if it happens on the pre-show, I see Mark Henry winning.
Okay, so we've got like 3 matches. We got Wyatt and Brock. We got the obvious main event, and now we have Mark Henry in the Underground Battle Royal. Okay, so that's 3 matches right there. AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. Where are these 2 guys going?
You know what? He is my dark horse that I am actually kind of hoping maybe they pull the trigger and say, you know what? He's getting a really good reaction right now. What if we throw him in there with Taker? He's physically.
AJ Styles and Taker.
I know how it sounds. It is a little dream booking right now, but it's like he is an elite star. He is proving himself each week that he's coming on here, that he can go. He's establishing himself. If you want to make the guy worth money real fast, a WrestleMania match of quality with Undertaker might be the way to fucking go. You don't have
The only thing that I don't like about that is because it's totally dream booking. Anytime you've ever tried to predict a pay-per-view, and 9 times out of 10, you're usually on the money. The reason I don't want to agree with you, because that is dream booking. That is exactly what I want to see.
Yeah.
Exactly what I want to see. What I'm afraid we're going to see is Styles and Miz.
No, I think they're smart enough to do something. I think, if anything, they would take the U.S. title or some way to get a title, either the Intercontinental or U.S. title, in around a heel, so maybe somebody in the League of Nations, and a multi-man match for a singles title. I don't think it'll be a ladder match, but 6-pack challenge, whatever. Multi-man match for a singles title with AJ possibly coming out on. That's what I realistically look at for him.
Well, this all is contingent on, do they plan on doing Money in the Bank this year?
No, I don't think. I think that is as its own pay-per-view?
Yes.
I would definitely think so. I think it's become like Royal Rumble now. It's
Because-
Royal Rumble of the summer.
Because last year, the ladder match was for the Intercontinental title.
Yeah.
It seems to me that they want Mania to be synonymous with ladder matches solely because of the TLC match and the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon match.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the whole brain trust of Money in the Bank, was they wanted to every year try to recreate, because you had Kofi in the Royal Rumble. They wanted a match with a spot that could last a year that people would talk about. And I think that's what they want out of Mania with the ladders.
You may get that, but you might get that in another place. I
Okay.
am thinking Usos, Dudleys, and New Day, and possibly a fourth in maybe a TLC match, maybe a ladder match.
I did say that to you, that I was kind of hoping for Usos, New Day, and Dudley's in a ladder match, in a TLC match.
I don't know who. I feel like there's room to squish somebody else in there as a tag team, because that's what they do. And
You know what I'm thinking, though? R-Truth and Goldust.
I think that's too comical. I think people want to see, like, I think New Day covers that. Maybe. I don't know. But I feel like I think people would want like a legitimate tag team of some stature in there. I don't know who that would be. I don't know if there's a team in NXT that fits that mold or anything, but
Well, that's the thing. We're completely ignoring NXT now. NXT at Mania.
yeah. At the show itself?
Yeah, who are you thinking?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you do know like they're having like the pay-per-view that Friday night for NXT. I don't know if you've heard that or not.
No.
Yeah. Friday night, it's the big NXT, like they did with SummerSlam this year. So that'll be NXT's WrestleMania pay-per-view on Friday night, which I think is awesome. Like the WrestleMania weekends evolved so much in the past couple of years. Like Friday night, it's the minor league, you know what I mean? It's the minor league game. Saturday night, it's you honor the past, and then WrestleMania, it's the future, like the now.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. Gives you something to look forward to the whole weekend. It's not just WrestleMania like when we were kids. It's this whole weekend of events. So, but I don't know. You know, the other thing for Taker is maybe Finn Balor. You know, but again, that's more fantasy booking for myself. Finn Balor actually already has a match WrestleMania weekend with Samoa Joe. I don't know the likelihood of double booking him in 2 high-profile matches, but it wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me, but I think, I don't know. I'm still not ruling out that Cena comes back.
I don't want to, simply because I do want to, believe it or not, I do really want to see Cena versus Taker.
Mm-hmm.
But I know this is going to upset so many fucking marks out there. I do want to see it as a retirement match.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows what it is? I just want to see it. I feel like that is a match worthy of this giant building. You know what I mean? It's just the rest of this card isn't much. Like it's very thin, or it's gonna be very thin unless you get somebody back.
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to rule out Seth Rollins because there's rumblings that he might be ready to go. Seth Rollins and Undertaker would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think you definitely need one of the injured guys back. I wonder who the first guy to make his return will be.
Personally, I think that might be Randy Orton.
Yeah, I think he's the closest. You know, like I would even have accepted Brock and Randy Orton. I think that would have been a fun match to watch. Because Orton,
it's just hard because if it was Randy Orton circa like 2004, absolutely. Randy Orton's a little more stiff in the ring now, and that's the only thing that worries me about it.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So if we can't fully predict the card, because we have plenty of time between now and Mania.
Oh, sure.
Hall of Fame class. Is there any prediction you can make on the Hall of Fame class? Because I already have like 3 potential candidates aside from Sting to go in there.
Yeah. I think the big one is the Freebirds. Everybody's talked about them. I agree with that choice. I think JBL going in is kind of pretty much on the point this year.
Well, because it was leaked. It was leaked from, one of the Hart brothers, that it's looking like it could be Godfather, Jacqueline, and JBL.
Jacqueline, I don't know. Jacqueline, I feel like goes down the list, but I don't know. Is she from Texas? So that might make sense. Okay. Because they try and link up who you are with where you're from. So that, I guess, makes sense.
JBL does make sense. And as much as I hate to admit it at times, I was a fan of Bradshaw. Yeah. Not so much JBL, but Bradshaw. Celebrity Hall of Fame, though, 110%. If it's not Lemmy, I'd be fucking disappointed.
Yeah. Well, the rumor was Regis Philbin. It's like, what?
Oh, please, God, no.
Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
If Triple H has any pull whatsoever, it has to be Lemmy.
I hope it's Lemmy. I said I'd accept, what's his fucking Captain Kirk.
William Shatner. Yeah. I would accept William Shatner. I mean, I am a Star Trek fan, yeah, but I think in terms of it being a very sentimental kind of night, I think that it should, and especially if Triple H is in the main event, because notice that the Hall of Fame, one way or another, seems to have an emotional investment on the spirit of WrestleMania, which, very, very truthfully has a lot to do with the main event, the spirit of the main event. I mean, the year that fucking Warrior went in was the same year that Bryan won the title. I think that every year it should fit kind of the feeling of what they're trying to accomplish by the end of the night. Truthfully, in terms of Manias, I think that my favorite Mania to date is going to be WrestleMania 30.
Okay.
Both in terms of the Hall of Fame and how the show ended. However, right now, I still think it should be Lemmy. If Triple H is in the main event defending the title, I think it should be, I think it should be Lemmy.
I'm on board. It makes sense. And in terms of a guy that has legitimate stake in the company, it's like Lemmy has stake. Like, he has iconic status. He's contributed to the WWE product in a way. So,
well, it's also funny because heavy metal is such a very guarded, heavily revered genre of music. For a professional wrestler to go to a now deceased heavy metal god's funeral and eulogize him and be accepted as part of that community or that family, having Triple H do that is huge. Huge. Yes, yes. You hear everything.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, it was probably worse than me eating nachos during a show. Feel free to say evacuation complete.
I was going that route. Complete. Evacuation. Complete.
Well, I think we have reached that point where my bladder has essentially been reduced to that of Lemmy in his old age. And we're still working on our card for Mania and for the Hall of Fame. So for Marks on Commentary, I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
Do we even have a number to give out? I don't even think we have a voicemail. You know what? Screw
Tweet
it.
us.
At MO Commentary. Comments, critiques. Mike went. We're getting you on the show. Blame Jason. It's all Jason's fault. I blame you because you're my tech friend. I should be producing the show so you don't have to do this shit anymore. And I don't know how to work my laptop.
We'll figure it out. We'll have a sit down. We'll have a powwow.
So, anyways.
Oh, I'm gonna plug my new YouTube channel. If you go on to YouTube and you search Vintage Vision, I'm doing a new weird YouTube channel where I post like found footage and shit. Like I come across like home videos and shit that I don't know who they are, where they belong from. I'm just throwing them up in the Ethernet and just whatever.
Now, just wait with bated breath because there will be found footage of the desk that Jason destroyed. Anyways, for Marks on Commentary, again, I'm Eddie Brophy. That was Lance Storm. Good night.